This is a quick video on transparency, and this is one of those audiophile terms that is a little bit mystifying for many audiophiles, and people usually tend to mistake it with clarity, whether your system sounds clear or muddy. Transparency is much more of that, and when we look at the root of the situation, transparency is all about equipment transparency. So how transparent your system is. And the transparency is the ability to reveal changes in your system. So the smaller a change that can be revealed, the more transparent your system is. Because when you go and listen to various opinions online, you will see some commenting and sharing their ideas that their system is so transparent that I can change an interconnect or I can change a deck and nothing changes, the sound is perfect in any way. Actually, what these people are saying is that their system lacks transparency to such a degree that no matter what you do, you won't notice a difference. This is like audio is like cooking, like making a dish, and if you change an ingredient in your dish, you should feel a change in the taste as well. And that's really up to your chef and up to your recipe to be able to notice that change and to make that change worthwhile. But what some people think is that the purpose of a good audio equipment is to make it totally immune to all other changes in the audio chain. So you can use just lamp cords and zip cords instead of more refined cables, and you don't need high quality parts. You can use just the basic 5 cent capacitors and resistors, and you are set for the highest standards and levels. Unfortunately, in these cases, well, the fortunate part is that you can make enjoyable sound and music, and you can shape it to sound any way you like it. You can shape it to sound like having a lot of energy, a lot of bass, even when you completely lack transparency in your equipment. However, that will result in your system painting the same picture with every recording. So it doesn't matter what you put on, everything will have strong bass, or whatever the feature is that that piece of equipment was designed to. But as a result, it will not reveal what's really going on in your recording. You won't be able to tune into the fine details and nuances. So that's really, I would say that that mentality is the consumer mentality. When you just want to listen to good music and you don't really care about fine details. But these people, because maybe they have found a system that's better than a little bit better than a Bose system, and they think that this is fantastic because they haven't experienced, or they don't really want to experience anymore. People want different things, and some people just want consistency. I just want a lot of bass in whatever I listen to. I'm not really, I don't really want to hear fine details. And however, when your equipment has a high level of transparency, then as a consequence, your recordings will be revealed in, I would say, higher and higher detail. So you can hear more how two labels have differences in their sound, how two recordings sound different. You can even notice that you have, for example, a CD, and the two tracks, one after the other, was mixed in a different way. You can even notice that. You can get a grasp on what the engineer did to create that sound. And when your equipment lacks transparency, then you won't be able to make such won't be able to notice such things and such details on your system. And when you think about whether cables make a difference in your sound, whether decks make a difference in your sound, whether putting spikes under your speaker makes a difference, or placing a crystal between your drivers makes a difference in sound, it's not something that you can do on every system and makes the same difference. All of the audio tweaks and audiophile tweaks and higher level modifications, they make a difference only when your system is transparent enough to hear the change. Because it doesn't matter if you have a Bose or if you have an audio note system. If you, for example, change your circuit breaker in the wall, it's going to make a difference. But with a low-grade, non-transparent system, you will not notice that change because that's hidden under the noise floor, under the processing systems of your equipment. And when your equipment is transparent enough so that it allows you to hear smaller and smaller differences, in the end, you change anything in your system, even if you change the orientation of your fuse. Yes, you don't need to change your fuse to audio grade fuse or whatever. Even if you just take out the fuse which is in your amp, you flip the orientation, put it back. If your system is transparent enough, it will be a very noticeable difference in sound. But then there are some people who try this out, they cannot hear a thing, and then they will tell you this is crap. And they will tell you that most of the audio pursuit that we are doing is worthless. And yes, if you are dealing with equipment which is not transparent, it's purely worthless. So that's why transparency is really the key and the Achilles heel in high-end audio. Because all the advice that you find online will make more and more sense once your equipment becomes more and more transparent. And it's not an easy situation because you can achieve very high levels of transparency, but it can yield you very different results depending on the gear. So for example, there is this recording, Johanna Marzi, but she's a fabulous violinist. Unfortunately, she had very few recordings. And this is her D major violin concerto from Brahms. And this one is on Angel label, so I have it on Angel label. And you can play it on two different audio systems, which are both have very high transparency levels, yet on one equipment it will sound really ugly, and on the other one it will sound fantastic. So just because your equipment is transparent, it doesn't mean that your a specific recording will sound heavenly on it. But what it means that when your system is highly transparent, then any change you do in the chain will show up big time. But then depending on how the chain is put together, it will have a preference to certain recordings, or maybe it will not have a preference to recordings, and it will allow you to hear anything that you throw at it in such a way that it does not amplify the weaknesses. Yes, they are still there. You can call them out. You are aware of them, but it does not intrude upon the perception of music. It's like having a fireplace in the background. It's not a disturbing thing. You know that it's a separate event. It's not part of the show. And the other equipment, which might be equally transparent but uses different methodologies to achieve resolution and imaging and all the properties of the sound, they might use a different method to retrieve the information from the recording, and it might mix up the noises of the recording floor into the performance itself and yield you an unpleasant, although very detailed experience. So thank you for tuning in. I hope that illuminates transparency a little bit. That transparency is truly about equipment, that whether you make a change in your equipment, whether you can hear it or not, that is transparency. But then how your equipment makes your recording sound, that's a whole different story. So thank you. Please like and subscribe. Bye bye.